Hey guys, what's up? Murder of Birds here. Welcome back to the channel. So really quick, it is really hot outside, okay? It is the summertime. There is a heat wave here in Massachusetts, and as a result, 90% of my house is literally on fire with the exception of this room. If you guys can hear a little bit of the humming in the background, my AC is on. That's probably going to be something that is frequent throughout the entirety of my channel, for the summer at least, until the weather cools down a bit. So I do apologize if that's a minor inconvenience for some of you. But on the more kind of relevant factor of this video, this is the last video that I am recording before jumping into my reactions for Season 10 of Red vs. Blue. So, if you are watching this on early access via Patreon, thank you guys so much for your continued support, especially during the delays and such that I've been going through, especially with coming back from RTX. I had a trip to LA, I got the con cred, I was sick. I've been going through a little bit of personal issues in my personal life that I'm trying to cope with and get through in a healthy way that doesn't affect the channel too much. But first and foremost, like I said, if you guys are watching this on early access through Patreon, thank you guys for your support, and know that next weekend you guys are getting my first batch reactions to my Season 10 reactions of Red vs. Blue. And if you're watching this on YouTube, by the time this goes up on YouTube, my first batch reactions will be posted for early access over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/MurderofBirds. So if you guys want to add, some additional support there, you guys get videos a week early. I'd greatly appreciate that. I've heard nothing but great expectations and great things to look forward to with Season 10. It's a lot of people's favorite. It's the closing of the Project Freelancer storyline. A lot of kind of closure, and a lot of things are coming to a close with the past meeting the present post, Season 9 and everything else like that. And I'm very excited to finally get into it. It's been like a video like this, and even my Season 10 reactions have been long overdue. With the kind of constant hiatuses that I've had on my channel, especially with this series, and I kind of want to follow through and continue doing that moving forward. So first and foremost, thank you guys so much again for the support. I've been doing videos like these since I believe Season 6, so I did Season 6, 7, and 8, where I kind of give my overall thoughts of the season, wrapping up my thoughts, opinions, theories, speculations, and overall analysis of the season. And the last reaction that I did formally for Season 9 was almost a year ago. So I've since, like I said, with the mini-series that I've been doing and like my reaction to the Season 8 and 9 soundtrack, I have been back up to speed with the series. I've rewatched all of the episodes, and along with my reactions to kind of get an idea of how my mindset was back then. I am back to homework. For this last video, I've actually done 3 pages of kind of putting together my thoughts and things that I'm going to be talking about in this video. I didn't cover any of my thoughts with Season 9, Seasons 18 through 20. And for Season 9 in particular, I feel like this video will be rather quick because Season 9 was like homework essay mode. I was literally doing almost hour-plus videos for almost all of my reactions for Season 9, giving my thoughts on the batch of episodes along with my reactions, and I think a lot of people really enjoyed that. I will change the format up a little bit, where the reactions will be at the beginning of the video, and then my full-on analysis will be after the reaction, just because I know a lot of people felt like the format that I had was jarring. It was my thoughts and opinions of the previous episode that weren't necessarily attached with the reaction of that same episode. So moving on with Season 10, I'm still going to be doing these essay-style videos where I'm going to be giving my thoughts, doing homework, rewatching the episodes after my initial reaction, so that way everything is covered, nothing is missed. Right now, we are 8 seasons away from being caught up. I would love to be caught up by next year if they do continue with like Season 18. I know Season 17 wrapped up this year. I'd really love to be caught up with Red vs. Blue within the next year, just to kind of be up to date with everybody, so I can actually go to the panels at RTX when they have the RVB panels and see what they have in store for the series moving forward. But for the sake of this video, we're going to be getting through my overall thoughts and discussion of the first half of Project Freelancer with Season 9. Like I mentioned before, I am back up to speed. Your boy's been doing his homework. He's been doing his research. This is kind of like 3 pages of wrapping up the last batch of episodes that I did for my reactions, episodes 18, 19, and 20, because during the time I went on my hiatus, so I never kind of got a chance to talk about how I felt about the last 3 episodes, the finale, and like everything else, you know, regarding that. Also the season as a whole, how I felt about it from start to finish, what I liked, what I didn't like, the overall delivery and presentation. Obviously that's something that I want to talk about. And then moving forward with the future are going to be my expectations, my predictions and speculations of season 10. So Red vs. Blue Season 9, episodes 18 through 20. The first thing that I think we all really need to talk about, or the first thing that I want to talk about to you guys, because you guys have already seen this, is Delta's creation, right? I mentioned when we first saw the alpha talking to the director, that was his true, whole, complete self, unaware of what was in store for him. You heard how sassy he was. He had a bit of charm and humor to him. He had all aspects of himself completed. And I was like, that really makes me feel for him. Because up until that point, I didn't really know how I felt about a computer program being tortured. You know what I mean? And hearing how humane they made him, hearing how real they made him, makes me really sad to know that the torture process has started. He's being tortured right now. The alpha is being tortured right now, and the first emotion to be ripped apart from him was his logic, and that in form gave birth to Delta. It is his birthday. He's being disassimilated by the director and the chairman. He's like, I remember you. You look familiar. He's like, no, you don't remember me. No, you weren't created before today. Your name's not Alpha. Your name is Delta. You are very wise, and we have great plans for you. And in my head, I'm just thinking, fucking bastards. Like, that's the first, I can only imagine what this guy's going through. And what eventually becomes the church that we knew of Blood Gulch. The husk of the alpha. So, I don't know. I just felt really, really bad to know, like, yeah, it's cool that we're actually seeing this process, but at the same time, it's like, we have that humanity within us to feel empathy for other things. And it goes back to like what I mentioned before, and it's this whole conflict between the director and the chairman of the UNSC, which is how far are we willing to go for humanity at the cost of our own humanity? You know, and that's why this process is so conflicting, because the director doesn't see anything wrong with it. He's like, that's me. That's a part of me. I'm torturing myself for the sake of humanity. But at the end of the day, he's not going through that. So, you know, I think that it's kind of cool that we're getting, you know, Delta, but it fucking sucks, because the more AI we see, the more we know what's really going on behind the scenes. And it doesn't seem like anyone's putting Carolina, to an extent, might be slowly but surely putting the pieces together with Tex in particular, you know what I mean? Like with the training simulation that she did with Wyoming, Maine, and York. But like, no one is really knowing what's going on behind the scenes, and it's already happening. I don't know if we're gonna see the alpha again, right? Like him talking to the director or anything like that. I don't know how far these experiments are going, because we still have Omega, we have the 2 AI that Carolina gets, we have Sigma, we have Epsilon, we have Theta, we have Gamma, and we have like whatever other AI are out there that we don't even know about. The only one we know that exists right now is Tex, because she was a byproduct of the AI's creation. So, you know, I felt so bad. And then another thing too, this scene right here. Don't let it touch anything else. I don't know if you guys know exactly what I was trying to get at, but the dude in the background is dragging the sarcophagus away. And the sarcophagus was the high priority target for the whole heist mission. They needed to get that, and they needed to get the key code in order to access whatever's inside of it. I don't know what's inside of it, but it seems like Delta came out of that. Because why would Delta be like stumbling into existence with that being dragged away? So I don't know if the sarcophagus is what they store the compartmentalized emotions in to give them like physical form. I don't know if that's what they're storing Alpha in during this process, or I don't know if whatever's in there is what enables them to get those emotions and kind of reassimilate them into AI. Because again, like it really comes down to, okay, he needed the UNSC's authorization to make the Alpha, but what technology are they using to then compartmentalize his emotions into all of these AI? it would seem like you would need some high tech unless that's what the sarcophagus is. Again, I don't know if the sarcophagus is just a box that they put these AI in, or if the contents of the sarcophagus is in fact what allows them to rip apart the emotions of the alpha and so on and so forth. So I put right here too, I was like, torture / store AI. So I don't know if that's the torture mechanism to make the AI or if it stores the AI. So for right now, I don't know if they'll ever really talk about that because the process is already starting. So again, I just feel my heart really goes out to Alpha because Alpha is a byproduct of the director, and those two things are part of Church and Epsilon, my favorite characters. So basically, my favorite character is torturing my favorite character. This is like a fucking crazy identity crisis. It's like, I don't really know what it comes down to. Do I root for Epsilon, which is the memories of the Alpha? Do I root for the director, who is essentially the Alpha's physical, real form? I don't know. I feel bad overall, and I just don't know what's going to happen in the future. We just know that Delta is created, and soon the rest of these AI are going to manifest, and the selection process is going to happen, and all of these freelancers are going to get their AI, and that's where shit's going to hit the fan. You know, for Tex, for York, for Carolina, and for everybody else. Moving on from there, I guess the second part of the backstory that we got were some freelancer moments. So the first one was from between York and North, where they're kind of talking afterwards, and York is basically having an internalized struggle with why is everything happening so fast, right? You have Tex comes into the picture, and now all of these people are on our asses. You got you got people at these different companies. You have the Spiral mission. Everyone's on our ass. Everyone's shooting us. Everyone's trying to, like, fuck up our plans. But we're the good guys, right? Why are we being targeted? And it seems like, again, yeah, of course, the director is leaving our asses in the dark because he has his own goals. He has his own ambitions. And like, you guys are literally tools. You guys are the necessity. You guys, necessity is the mother of invention. You guys are the necessity for the invention that the director has in store. So I like how they're slowly starting to question themselves, because York is one of those freelancers who does end up making it out. He ends up dying in the Out of Mind miniseries, but it seems like he goes on to live, much longer than most. And at the end of the day, I don't really know what that means for them realizing what's happening before it happens. They don't have their AI yet. They're still very young. And I say young, but I really mean naive in the grand scheme of what's going to happen to them. And I do also like that the song Can't Trust Anybody Now. It's that question of morality. It's like, we're the good guys, right? We're the ones that are supposed to be on a team. We're the ones that are doing right by the director and by the project and everything. And they have no clue. Another thing was the connection between Wash and CT, and I've talked about these mostly at length in the actual, like, reviews leading up to now, but CT is essentially a traitor, right? I think I can officially say that before it's confirmed. She went through the Washington even was talking to York back when the season first started, and he was like, I had a meeting with internals that there's information leaking out of our blank. And then we see CT on a computer talking to UNSC. It's like that little thing at the bottom corner, talking to a UNSC insurrectionist. And then she's like, I gotta go. Mind your business. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? There's a mole inside of Project Freelancer. Obviously, I thought it would have either been her, or I thought South would have been more of the culprit there, but we obviously know what ends up happening to her. She kind of goes rogue off the deep end and, like, shoots her own friends in the back just for the sake of an AI and for the sake of what she wants, based on how the director treated her. But there's one scene that happens during the heist. What did I put here? Subtle UNSC betrayal during heist briefing. So there's a moment during the briefing where I'll just show you the clip. Check this out.
Here's what we have. As you may have heard, there is suspected insurrection activity in this area. Our intel says that members of the UNSC loyal to the insurrection...
It is so subtle, but when Carolina mentions that there are UNSC members loyal to the insurrectionists, you see CT look at her and then look back down at the mapping. Almost as if to infer, like, yeah, those are my boys you're about to attack, or yeah, those are the people I'm feeding you information for. basically it gave her a reaction because she's a traitor. And I don't know if that was supposed to be hinted at, or like now that I'm kind of putting pieces together, it makes a lot more sense. And I don't know what's going to happen to CT because we don't see her again until like what, the desert? I think it's like season 8 that we see her again, or season 7. We see her again. She gets lasered by Epsilon. But like that in particular right there, it's like, well, how the hell does she make it out as a traitor? Do they ever find out that she's a traitor? Does she confront anybody? Does anybody confront her? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just kind of left in the dark right now because it seems like that's what it's hinting at, that CT is going to be a traitor to the director and to everything, because can't trust anybody now. First off, let me just say this right now. If you have not seen, I did a reaction to listening to the season 8 and 9 soundtrack for the first time. Can't Trust Anybody Now is my favorite song to date. It's my favorite song to date of the Red vs. Blue music. It's a song based on the anguish and the emotional turmoil of the freelancers from CT's perspective. And there's a lot of lines and a lot of lyrics that kind of harken to that. One cool factor that I noticed too, can't trust anybody now. Can't starts with a C, trust starts with a T. CT can't trust anybody now. And even the lyrics.
The rankings, they're drawing a line between us, Wash. And you're either on one side of that line or you're on the other.
No one thinks like that. We're a team.
You think they help us? Think they give us everything? They'll just use us. Whatever bitter end to bring, it gets harder. They'll sacrifice you for their need. Wake the fuck up. They'll have us crawling on our knees.
The director? He's given us everything. He's helping us.
Helping us? Wake up. Wake the fuck up. He's filtering us.
You're just overreacting. You've always been hard on yourself, Connie.
Not as hard as they are. Not nearly as hard as they're going to be.
Now your smiles are turning tears, and it's pretty goddamn clear that you know you can't trust anybody now.
It's getting pretty goddamn clear which side I'm on.
You know, that song is basically from her perspective, talking to people like Washington, and even Washington's perspective as well, because he's like a Boy Scout, right? We know he's a cynic now. We know like he's pessimistic about everything. AIs, freelancers, the director, all that shit. He doesn't trust the Reds. He doesn't trust the Blues. He's a one-man army. He covers himself, and that's it. And, you know, he was even willing to go as far as to like turn in Epsilon and turn in Tex and everything else like that and side with the meta, just to get away from all of this, because it's fucked up his life so much. And we see what he's like right now. We see how naive, how young, impressionable, and how much he admired and looked up to the director, and how much that probably hurt when he found out what he was doing. Or, you know, I don't really know what this outcome is going to be like. I don't know how any of these freelancers are going to feel about the director once they get their AI and once they find out whatever it is he's up to, because, you know, the next major thing that's going to happen is they're going to try to break the alpha out, but unfortunately they're going to get to him too late. And I don't know if we're going to see that either, because that's another major factor that Tex mentions in the past, that she led the break-in to try to get the alpha out of the director's hands, but he was already a husk at that point. He was already the person that we knew from Blood Gulch. So I don't know. There's just a lot of things regarding like these minor freelancer moments that kind of I feel like are gonna blossom when season 10 starts, and I'm really looking forward to that. The next thing that I want to talk about is the list. So in the last batch, I did also notice that the list got swapped a little bit. Texas is at the top. Carolina is number 2. York is 3rd. Maine is 4th. Washington is 5th. North Dakota is 6th. And then there's nobody else on the list. There's only like the top 6. I assume Wyoming is somewhere there, but as of right now on the list, South is off the list, and CT is basically a traitor and a failure in the director's eyes as of right now. I know she doesn't get an AI either. But the thing is the ranking list like the top 6 based on who gets an AI? Like if you're on the list, you get an AI, right? I assume Wyoming is immediately under Dakota, like North Dakota, because Wyoming gets an AI too, right? So the listings would be Texas number 1, she gets Omega. Carolina's number 2, she gets 2. That's kind of ironic that she's rank 2 and she gets 2 AI. So Carolina is well, Tex is an outlier because it's weird too that Tex herself is an AI that also gets an AI. I found that super weird. I didn't know if that was like, because like, again, like when I first, up until we found out that Tex was the beta, it made sense. It was like, okay, humans get AI, but she's an AI herself getting an AI herself. So I just find that that's weird. So she's basically failure and rage. She's the rage of Omega and the failure of her own construct based on the director. So again, Tex gets Omega, Carolina gets 2 AI. We don't know the names or what part of Epsilon that they are. I mentioned a while back that maybe it's fear would be one of them, because Carolina has and like I said, I kind of went at, like, I talked about it at length at the time, but Carolina is very cocky, she's very arrogant, she has a lot of moxie, she has a lot of spunk, and nothing really scares her, right? She was at the top for the longest time. Tex rolls around and kind of puts her on her, has her walking on eggshells now. She's no longer the number 1, and I feel like something like fear would even her out. Right? It would even her out to where she has some humility, where she's a lot more humble around her peers and not so much of I don't know the word to really explain it, but basically just not such a hard ass on people who aren't as perfect as she is, or not as, star-spangled, like star student and compared to her. I don't know what the other one would be. Fear is the only thing that I can think of, because fear would be an emotion that would also be relevant to the alpha wanting to break off to protect itself. I just don't know what the other one would be. So I assume one of them would be fear for Carolina. I don't know the other one. York obviously gets Delta. Maine, I don't know what Maine gets, but the only other the only other AI that I know of by name is Sigma, which is creativity. So I don't know how that would relate to Maine, because Maine becomes the meta. I don't know, because I know that AI, like, the connections between AI and Freelancer are the Freelancers are thinking what the AI are thinking, and the AI are thinking what their hosts are thinking. So I don't know if we're going to learn about Sigma, because Sigma was in and of himself an AI, but how did Maine end up becoming the meta if it wasn't a part of his AI's You know what? It's weird, but I'm just thinking, like, did Maine's AI have any direct influence in Maine becoming the meta? Because Maine is a fucking badass, and he, like, cares about his teammates. Like, he took a bullet for Carolina, and he got, like, shot up and knocked off the overpass for the sake of the mission, for the sake of protecting his friends. And I can't picture him just becoming this feral, vile person without some type of influence, maybe even the director, if you will. So, but Sigma's creativity. So I'm also wondering, like, what kind of creativity influence would be on Maine for him to do any of that. Obviously Epsilon, fucking hell, dude. Oh my God. I just realized, are we gonna see what happens when Epsilon's memories are imprinted onto Washington? Are we going to see that mental breakdown of basically Epsilon going fuck all crazy in Washington's head and basically setting up what ends up becoming, memory is the key in this whole, like, basically the original kind of purpose of what started off the Freelancer storyline with Washington. Jesus Christ, I didn't even think about that until just now, because we're getting a lot of references and small tidbits of information that kind of like harken back to like the original like mini-series, like learning that York was missing an eye, and then once we get to Project Freelancer, we see how that happened. Tex mentioning how she was in like the sparring match with Wyoming, Maine, and York, and then we got to actually see that firsthand. So I'm wondering if we're gonna see some of those moments. Are we gonna see the break-in, for example, of the break-in attempt to free Alpha? Are we going to see what happens when Epsilon tethers himself to Washington? And then Theta, are we going to see more of Theta, because that's North Dakota's AI? And then Wyoming gets Gamma, but I don't know if that's of normal cause or if that's because he's not on the list. So maybe he just gets an extra one just because, you know, he's the runner-up for the first top 6. I don't know, but we'll have to find out. So with watching this show, there have been very few moments that have that, like, wow factor for me. A lot of the moments in this show are really, like, high energy, a lot of action, a lot of shock value for the sake of, like, just craziness happening, whether it's a fight scene or whether it's a crazy reveal like Dr. Leonard Church or something like that. But there are very few moments that are so fucking impactful. Moments of, like, that are powerful, moments that have a lot of gravitas to them. And one of them that really hit me really hard, and one of the ones that I always go back to and I always remember very fondly, was the season 8 finale, when Church goes into the capture unit and he has that dialogue, you know, he has that monologue about love and about good memories and about how he's gonna find Tex. And, you know, if you're gonna live the rest of your life in a memory, you might as well make it a good one. That is probably one of the most powerful moments of Red versus Blue for me. And not many have really been able to pass it since. 3 simple words. 3 words that he wasn't able to say to her back then. I think the dialogue, I think the camera placement more than anything, and just the impact of the "I forget you" scene is probably, at this current point, from my perspective, the most emotional part of Red versus Blue. Letting Tex, first off, the dialogue itself, coming to that realization, like, I found it out, it was you, it was Tex, she was the memory, she was the key. And letting her go. That's something that I thought I'd never see. You know, like, that's the Tex that we know. You know, Allison died in the war, and we never really got to see what, you know, she was actually like. This, everything, I feel like the project, the AI, the freelancers, the Reds, the Blues, this entire story is based on the director's lost love. And letting that go, letting the core of this entire story go free was just powerful. There's really nothing more that I can say about that. And I was just really, like, in denial, like, I cannot fucking and, like, when he says I was just, like, so lost in the moment. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna say I love you. Oh, no, this is Church we're talking about. He's gonna say, I hate you, you know, because, you know, he's not gonna show his real feelings, but he says, I forget you. And that fucking hit me hard, because I didn't think something like that would have happened in the way that it happened, right? It was his moment of closure. He was at peace. The world was gonna fucking end. At the very least, he was gonna set her free and go himself. And I think Tex is officially gone now. Allison died in the war. Beta Tex died in Blood Gulch from Donut's grenade. And Epsilon Tex is now set free. So I think Tex is, like, gone forever now. And I just don't know how I feel about that, because, like, Tex is a fucking badass. There is no Reds and Blues without Texas, you know what I mean? And I just listened to the songs for the first time, round 1, On Your Knees, you know, I Say Ooh, which has nothing to do with Red versus Blue, but I immediately correlated that to Church and Tex because, you know, they're a thing. You know, she was awesome. She was such a fucking badass. Even when she failed, she still tried. She didn't give up. And I still have season 10 to kind of see how it all comes around for her. You know, with the director, with Church, with the Alpha, with Blood Gulch, and everything that kind of came around full circle for her in particular. You know, her introduction, her being number one, her living up to the expectations of the director and everything else in between. Because he is the remnant of the director's failures, and she is the remnant of Allison. She is Allison. So again, there are very few moments in RVB that hit me on an emotional level. Like I said, the season 8 finale, you know, the good memory, and I Forget You. Those are two scenes that are like, that have so much gravitas for me, that like are moments that I will literally just remember forever based on the impact that they had, not just for the story, but for me as a viewer watching it. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I if that is the last time we ever see Texas, I'm glad she's free. You know, this kind of goes back even to the season 7 trailer when we saw Church and Tex, and they were like, are we done yet? No, we're not done. We still have a lot more to go. Then let's get started. And their story was done, but it was the ascension of their story. It was the transcendence of their story through Epsilon and through Epsilon Tex. But now I think Tex's chapter is closed. And I guess when we go into the present, like with season 10, Epsilon is now relinked with Carolina. Her beef is with the director. He's along for that ride. Epsilon's story is not over yet. So now he's got to carry on for the sake of everything else because, you know, his partner's gone. So again, I really, 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 that scene means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. It means a lot for how long I've been watching the show, how closely I've been following it, you know, with my analysis and my predictions and videos like these and my reactions and everything. And I've grown to love and cherish the show so much, even though I'm slowly but surely catching up. And I think moments like that really make me happy that I'm taking my time with this show, because once I'm caught up, it's going to be like, it's going to be, in and of itself, moments like these are going to be my good memory. It's going to be my fond memory of like these reactions and remembering how I felt when I first saw Tex beating on the Reds and the Blues, or seeing Epsilon come back from the dead, essentially. I don't know. I love it, you know, and I appreciate moments like that. And it's fucking crazy that Bernie was able to kind of put all this together. I can't wait to finish season 10 and then go to RTX next year and shake his hand and be like, dude, I just watched, I finally caught up and I finished your great, like your work of this show for so long, and I appreciate it so much, but I still have season 10 to get through. So, impactful moment, I Forget You. It means so much, and we're one half of the way done. We still have Epsilon's story to kind of come to a close and see how that wraps up. And in that, we move to the present, because now, fucking Carolina's alive! How? What? Where has she been for the last 9 seasons, 8 seasons, right? So, and I say this because they gave you the old bait and switch, the old catch-22. I swear to God, I'm like 95% sure that Wyoming at one point, as well as Tex at one point, both mentioned that Carolina was dead.
Yeah, Tucker told me. What happened?
I thought I tracked him back to O'Malley, but by the time York and I got there...
York? Your old freelancer buddy? Was Carolina with him?
She was already dead.
And what about Bermuda? That's not a state, dumbass.
And that's how they get you. They literally set you up, put you in this false sense of security. It's like, okay, we just let the viewers know that Carolina is dead. They're going to get this past event. They'll never expect it. They'll never see her coming. And then she fucking shows up at the end. My first expectation, or my first question really, is where has she been all of these years? I understand, yeah, okay, like we got the mini-series where we got a little bit more of North and of South and of York and stuff like that. We've seen snippets here and there. The meta came in around season 5, season 6. So it's very understandable to kind of be like, okay, they're not going to show off everything. And if anything, Carolina was the big shock value plot twist for season 9 because she's relevant. She's in the present with the Reds and the Blues, even though she is also relevant for the past of Project Freelancer. So we're getting that immediate juxtaposition here. So where has she been throughout the series? How did she survive her fight with the meta is what I'd also like to know, because yeah, her AI were taken. Was her armor ability? Yeah, her armor ability was taken too, because Maine was able to kind of camouflage himself in certain instances during the season, like during his moments, you know, with the Reds and the Blues. So, like, he got her AI, he got her armor ability, but she faked her death, or he didn't kill her. He just got what he needed and moved on. Because that was a second part of my perception, was that anyone who came across Maine got killed. North got killed. Tex got fucked up. Her body was he basically got rid of the body that stored the beta AI, which was Tex. And up to that, my understanding was like, okay, if Carolina, her AI were taken, her armor abilities were taken, then she's dead too. And then people like Wyoming and Tex also mentioned that, kind of adding weight to that. So that was a very, very shocking reveal when they were like, oh, we came here because of the new lady. I'm like, what fucking new lady? And a bigger thing for that is, how did she get in contact with the Reds and Blues? Because now the only two freelancers that I think are still alive is Washington and Carolina. How is that reunion gonna happen? Did Carolina find them, or did Washington seek her out? Did Washington know she was alive? I need to know what happened post season 8, when everyone goes back to their bases and the capture unit gets stored away, and then we just move to the capture unit for season 9. I need to know how Carolina came to be, how she contacted the Reds and the Blues, how her interaction with Washington was, how they tracked down the capture unit, how they found where Epsilon was, and why she wants the director dead. That's the big thing too, the fucking juxtaposition. You get fucking whiplash, because in one scene she says, I love you, director, I'll do anything for you, and then the next one she wants his head.
I'll do whatever it takes. You've given me everything. I would do anything for you.
Now that I found you, you're gonna help me do what I should have done years ago. You're gonna help me kill the director.
And it was also pretty eerie too when you saw, like, she's Hell's Angel. She's the #1 with the exception of the beta, but like, we knew she was the #1. We knew it was gonna be a lot harder for her on anybody else. Not just how she treats her peers, but how she's viewed by the director. You know, if you're at the #1, you're in his good graces. You're the teacher's pet, and unfortunately, you're gonna have to go through harder shit than anybody else. 2 AI, rigorous training, incredibly high, if not impossible expectations to be met, and that wears down on you as a person, to where it turned from, I'll do anything for you, to, you're gonna help me kill this fucker because it should have happened a long time ago, and he's taken everything from us. And I just wonder, what were the last moments that she had with the director before the director basically kind of went AWOL and got the project got disbanded. Everyone, I assume, went their own separate ways. Most of the AI were either collected, or they were dispersed or went their own ways, like Gamma did, or Omega went AWOL. And I just wonder what it was like for her before the director. What was it like during the past of Project Freelancer with season 10 or whatever, before we see her again now? And even more so, how the hell does she come back into the present tense, or the present moments, with the Reds and the Blues following season 8's finale? Those are the main things that I really would like to know more than anything. So I think those are everything. Those are basically all of my initial shotgun fire thoughts of the first half of Project Freelancer. You know, with the batch that I did, episodes 18, 19, and 20, they are rather short because there's only 3 episodes, and since I'm only talking about the past events, it's even shorter because a lot of the stuff that happened was in the capture unit. The world is ending! Repent! Repent! The end is nigh! And none of that really mattered at the end of the day. But we are now moving to my overall thoughts of season 9 of Red vs. Blue. The good, the bad, what I liked, what I felt could have been better. Let's get into it. So, I want you to brace yourselves. Don't have a knee-jerk reaction. Wait for me to say what I'm going to say before you type crazily in the comments. Most of you guys are really cool about it and understanding. I don't expect anyone to be like typing with furrowed brows, angrily pounding their keyboards. But I will say this right now. Red vs. Blue Season 9 was half good and half bad. Why do I say that? Well, because half of it was relevant. The Project Freelancer backstory, the history of the director and the AI and the freelancers, and basically everything that's kind of cultivated since the show has started. I would go as far as to say Project Freelancer, maybe Bernie didn't think of it all the way back during season 1, but the inklings of the director, the freelancers, the AI, and Project Freelancer as a whole was there since season 1. It was there since O'Malley, right? It was there since him, and that was the inkling that eventually swarmed and blossomed its way into turning into where we are now going into season 10. That being said, the second half, everything in the capture unit was pointless. It was, and it's even more notable when you go back and watch my season 9 reactions and discussions. What do I talk about most likely? I talk about what happens in the past, because that's the relevant, juicy information. And I'm not here to just shit on everything that happened in the capture unit. I just think Rooster Teeth was trying to heavily balance plot and nostalgia. They're trying to balance telling a really compelling, story-focused event with the Project Freelancer backstory, but also giving us kind of that Blood Gulch Chronicles vibe, right? It's a new Blood Gulch from the mind of Epsilon through the stories of Caboose. Not everything is what it seems, not everything is what it should be. And at the end of the day, none of it really matters. The only thing of relevance that we took away from the capture unit was the Andy the Bomb cameo, which was really fucking cool to see him again. But Andy the Bomb, the recursion cycle to kind of understand that process and how it worked, and even the last 2 miniseries that I watched, MIA and Where There's a Will, There's a Wall, those 2 moments were actually recursion cycles themselves, because it's canon, it's plot, it makes sense. The recursion cycle is a part of understanding how Epsilon was able to finally reach and come to that realization of the I forget you scenario. So, that was relevant as well. And then again, the I forget you scenario, letting Tex go free. Those were the only 3 things. Really, Andy was just a cameo, but the recursion cycle and the resolution for Tex were the only reasons why, in my opinion, the capture unit moments were relevant at all. Who cares if Donut, at the end of the day, who cares if any of them knew or didn't know who they were? They weren't themselves anyway. And now that we're out of the capture unit, we'll probably never see them or hear from anything in there again. So, again, I don't mean to, be aggressive about it, but objectively, I really only cared about the Project Freelancer stuff. And I think season 10 is what season 9 should have been, and I say that going into, I don't know shit about season 10, so what am I talking about? I mean, season 10 is going to be, I think, that same thing. It's going to be the past of Project Freelancer, but the present in the real world with the Reds, the Blues, Washington, Carolina, present day director, and Epsilon and everything else now. So season 10 is probably going to be a billion times better, because the past is going to be relevant and the present is going to be relevant. Whereas season 9, the past was relevant and the present was irrelevant, in my opinion. So I think that that's really the thing. Yeah, it was plot versus nostalgia, but the Project Freelancer aspect was probably the best thing of Red versus Blue, period. If you just clipped all of the Project Freelancer stuff as its own self-contained story, Project Freelancer for season 9 was phenomenal. Animation, choreography, action sequences, music, plot, payoffs, references, callbacks, everything was just what we've wanted and what we've been expecting and looking forward to since we've gotten the breadcrumbs of the director, of the AI, of the freelancers, going as far back as the miniseries, So I think in a way it was great, right? Because it was one half of the great storyline that we're getting right now with Project Freelancer as a whole. But you can't really say that it was the greatest of season 9 just because season 9 as a piece is only half good, because the other half not only is irrelevant, but it's really filler. And I think it's really the first filler that we've ever gotten of Red versus Blue. you can say what you want about Blood Gulch Chronicles, but Blood Gulch Chronicles was always about the AI. It was about O'Malley. It was eventually about Texas, and then about Gamma, and then about Wyoming, and you know, everything kind of really came together with the freelancers and the AI from the very beginning, even if that wasn't how the story was originally perceived. You can't really take anything away from the capture unit other than filler moments. So that's how I felt. That's how I felt about it. I don't really think it's that harsh to say. I really just think it is what it is. You can take it how you want. If that was your favorite moment of Red versus Blue, you know, all the more power to you. But in my opinion, I think it was half good and half bad. With that said, Monty Ohm fucking leveled up after season 9. So season 9 was great. Warthog crashing through the wall, seeing just everything, the new animation style of when you saw an animation style like that, you knew it was Monty. Whether it be the Warthog, whether it be Tex versus the Reds and Blues, whether it's Tex versus Wyoming. I'm sorry. Well, yeah, even then, like the ice fight between Washington and Maine, and even this season, I think they did a really great job at spreading out a lot of the action because they were juggling the past and the present. But North, South, and Carolina stealth mission was such a cool fucking way to introduce not just North and South, like the twins, and then Carolina finally getting to see this badass chick after so long, how she has a lot of similarities to Tex in some ways, like with her armor ability, and the fact that she's also a badass, and they kind of did the bait and switch. I thought it was going to be Texas, but it ended up being Carolina, which that was pretty cool too. Tex versus Maine, York, and Wyoming, that was pretty great. We got Jeff Williams music in that fight. And I think the Spiral mission, the heist mission in its entirety, not even that, just Spiral, the episode Spiral is a fucking masterpiece. In every sense of the word. Cinematography, animation, attention to detail, the music was great, Falling Towards the Sky, even the Spiral OST, while the camera's spinning a fucking 1,000 times over as crazy shit's happening on the highway, Maine and Carolina fucking shit up. Oh my God, it was so freaking cool to see that. And I've watched it so many times since then, but I legitimately think Spiral, I almost said Spyro. Spiral, I don't know what season 10 has in store, but I think Spiral is Monty's greatest work as far as what I've seen. Period. Greatest work. From everything that he's done. Dead Fantasy, Ruby, I think Spiral is and obviously he's not a one-man army when it comes to RVB, but that is so Monty to a T that it's that's his greatest work in my opinion. I don't know, people say season 10 is his hold my beer moment, and it's the last thing that I'm gonna see him do. So, it's the last work that I saw him work on, before he passed away. I've seen Ruby, I've seen Dead Fantasy, I've seen Halo, I've seen everything else that he's worked on in terms of 3D animation, and season 10 is going to be a really big one for me. But I think Spiral was his greatest work. It's the attention to detail, it's the crazy hype, flying by the seat of your pants hype action that he was known for, and that really kind of just, I was blown away by how well everything was. The music, the high energy, the highway chase scene. It's it's a constant, right? They have a highway chase scene in Ruby too. But yeah, it was fantastic and I loved it. Music, another big thing. As you guys might know, like I mentioned earlier, for those of you who haven't seen it, I did a reaction to the seasons 8 and 9 soundtrack. Listening to those songs for the first time, Falling Towards the Sky, Can't Trust Anybody Now, On Your Knees, some of these great iconic songs that really came up during the past of Red versus Blue, and for Rooster Teeth in general, the community, Jeff's inclusion, Casey's inclusion, Lamar Hall's inclusion. I did that reaction. Falling Towards the Sky is a close second favorite. Like I said, Can't Trust Anybody Now is definitely my favorite. And the coolest thing about all of this is that I did that reaction, I put it out there, and Casey and Lamar both watched it, and they tweeted at me. Casey was really happy that I was actually going back through the archives and the history of Rooster Teeth, of Red versus Blue, of her and her dad and Lamar's work. Lamar thought it was pretty cool too, like he mentioned too, and it really just came down to nostalgia for them, right? This was a different point in time where Rooster Teeth was it was their humble beginnings, right? It was where Red versus Blue was really probably like the Red versus Blue and the RT podcast were probably the two biggest shows that they worked on at the time. But prior to RWBY, prior to Genlock, prior to like any of the like Day 5 and all that other shit, Red versus Blue and the podcast was probably what had Rooster Teeth on the map on the internet. And, you know, it was such a different time. The community, I feel like, was so much more central because it was like super crowdfunded, right? They weren't bought out by anybody. They weren't owned by like AT&T or Full Screen or anything like that. It was just a lot humbler of times and a lot smaller and closer knit than it is now, I think. But, you know, that was a time where like Monty and Miles and Carrie and Gray and Jeff and Lamar and the community as a whole were just all fucking together in this. And it's so unfortunate for me because, you know, like I came into Red versus Blue, not even Red versus Blue, but Rooster Teeth in general in 2013. RWBY Volume 1 was what got me into the community. And thankfully I was around when Monty was still alive at that time for Volumes 1 and Volume 2. And, you know, everything that's happened with me and my channel it was a big reason why I wanted to go back and pay respects more than anything to this company. Like, I love this company so much. I love the creators. I love the fans. I love viewers of my content as well, by proxy of it being part of the Rooster Teeth community. And I felt like I had to pay my respects. I had to see where it started because of Red versus Blue and because of Monty that any of us are here. You know what I mean? Especially me. So I loved it. And Casey and Lamar actually mentioned that, you know, it was like a nostalgia for them to kind of see that someone was still enjoying the music that was a part of their past, that was a part of the history of them getting into the industry or getting into the fandom or the community or Rooster Teeth or whatever the case might be. And I just love that. I'm glad that they both enjoyed the videos. I just wish that I was around back then. And it feels weird to say because I feel like YouTube was such a different place back then, like what, 2011, 2012, and like content was so different. Like you can't find anything like reactions like what I'm doing now. I wish I could see what the community felt like and what the reactions were like when Red versus Blue was going on back then. You know, because it's like a piece of history. But unfortunately, I wasn't around back then, and at least I wasn't in the community back then. And, you know, I love this show so fucking much, and I'm glad that people are able to take a part of themselves and inject it into my reactions as a way of kind of seeing like what it was like for them for the first time. I get so many comments like that where people are say stuff like, you know, it's like I'm watching the show for the first time through your eyes or through your reactions or through my opinions or thoughts or speculations or theories. And I think that's what makes reaction video. I'm going on a tangent now. I just think that's what really makes reaction videos special. It's like a time capsule of emotions, of hype, of excitement, of relatability, of just community engagement at the end of the day, of what we all really love and care about. And for me, it's RWBY and it's Red versus Blue and it's Genlock and it's Rooster Teeth as a whole, but it's also anime and video games. And I don't know, I'm rambling now, I'm getting caught up in my feelings, but it was really great to know that you know, Casey and Lamar watched the videos. It kind of brought them back to a point in their past of reminiscing, of being nostalgic, and of kind of remembering fonder times when things weren't so crazy and hectic as they are now, with Rooster Teeth being a bigger company, you know, RWBY being like their flagship series, Genlock being where it is now, and you know, obviously the loss of Monty kind of changed a lot of things internally and externally for the fandom as a whole. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm glad that, you know, they watched it. I'm glad that it was something that was able to bring people together in a different way. And, you know, I think, again, the music is such a cool factor of Red versus Blue, just as much as RWBY. And you guys loved the reaction that I did to the Season 8 and 9 soundtrack. You guys are highly recommending that I do it again with Season 10, which I'm most likely going to once I finish the season up. But yeah, I don't know. Those are just my overall thoughts and ramblings and my emotions of how everything has been over the last couple of years. But yeah, overall, like I said, I think Season 9 was great. It was great in the parts that were the strongest, which was Project Freelander, and unfortunately, it was weak in the sense of relevance, or rather irrelevance, for the capture unit. Yes, it had some of those Blood Gulch Chronicles vibes, and you know, it had more shenanigans of the reds and the blues, but at the end of the day, I think when you're focusing so much more on heavy plot and lore, I feel like the comedic side of things gets really thrown to the wayside, at least from my experience. You know, like I said, when I do these videos, when I do the reactions and the discussions, it's really from the perspective of what's relevant, which is Project Freelancer. Not to take anything away from the Caps unit, I definitely enjoyed it as I was watching it, but in hindsight, especially when it comes to looking objectively at it, Season 9 was definitely half good and half bad, in my opinion. And finally, we've reached the tail end of the video. These are going to be the exciting bits for me. This is going to be my expectations, my predictions, and speculations of everything that I'm looking forward to for Season 10 of Red vs. Blue. So like I mentioned before, the first half of Project Freelancer with Season 9, I think, did a really great job at introducing us to the freelancers, kind of giving us a mild rundown of their personal interactions, and really kind of the closest thing I think that they were to being a team, right? With, you know, with North and South's mission, with the Spiral heist mission, and everything else like that. And I think it really did what I was wanting it to do initially, is giving us a lot of the freelancer moments of how they interact, who likes who dislikes who, and just the camaraderie of everything, their banter, their good times, their bad times. And I think now the second half is really where things are going to ramp up and escalate drastically with the introduction of the artificial intelligence, and most likely, or rather one of the main things I'm looking forward to now, is now that I know who's buddy-buddy with each other, who likes each other, who doesn't like each other within the freelancer dynamic, I'm really looking forward to seeing the freelancer AI dynamics. Primarily, or in particularly, are we going to see any of the first-time interactions with the freelancers and their AI partners? For example, I'd love to know how York and Delta broke the ice with meeting or getting acquainted, because they seem to have a really good relationship when we see them in the Out of Mind miniseries. I know Carolina had more of a disastrous kind of time adjusting to artificial intelligence compared to everybody else's, and that was kind of, I think, a short-lived venture for her. I know Omega gave Tex a really bad time, so I think her interactions with Omega were a lot different in the grand scheme of things, and that could probably also be partially due to the fact that she herself is an artificial intelligence. But that's the first thing. I think the main thing that I'd really like to see is the AI dynamic of the freelancers and how they interact with their AIs, and just seeing how that goes. And even more so, do the AIs also communicate with each other? Because the freelancers are very closely tied together in this whole freelancer project thing. So, like, does Gamma talk to Delta? Does Delta talk to Omega? Does Omega talk to Epsilon? You know what I mean? Like, it's weird to think that, but at the same time, the AI kind of talk to their freelancer partners, as well as like people like in Blood Gulch when they became relevant. But I'm wondering just the overall dynamic of AI. Do they talk to each other? Do they talk how they interact with their freelancer brethren and all that stuff? So that's the first thing that I'd really like to see. Secondly, and this is over the course of Season 10, because Project Freelancer is disbanded now, I'd really like to see how the fall and the aftermath of Project Freelancer happens, what becomes of the director, since apparently he is still alive in present day. You know, what happened to him following the project failing? How did all of the freelancers disperse? What became of the certain AI that were still out there in the wild? Like, you know, like Gamma ended up becoming a part of that computer system, like back in O'Malley's base, and just a bunch of different things like that. I just want to know how things were left off when the project disbanded and when everything kind of went to shit. That's kind of like the main thing, because when we get a lot of these freelancers in Blood Gulch and, you know, Season 6, 7, and 8, everything is kind of like all haywire. Everyone's being brought together by a common interest, being the Reds and Blues, you know, Omega and everything else like that. And, you know, and Wyoming was brought in as like a gun for hire for that whole project as well. So they were all brought together by strands that eventually led to like a common theme for mainly Omega, and then everything else kind of picked up with the director and then the meta. But yeah, so Project Freelancer, the fall and the aftermath, how all of the, because does it set up anything for how we can interpret what became of North and South before we ended up seeing them? Because they seem to be together long after Project Freelancer ended. We obviously saw what York was up to in the Out of Mind miniseries. What became of Maine? You know what I mean? Like, what became of him up until the point where he becomes the meta? I don't know if we end up seeing any of these things, but these are a lot of the stuff I'm wondering. The aftermath between the end of the project and where a lot of these characters become, or basically come into the picture in the present day. So two major things. Actually, maybe one major thing. I really want to know if we're going to see the Alpha's rescue attempt. The break-in, the organized mission led by Tex to free the Alpha from the director's control of him being, tortured and having all of those AI extrapolated. I don't know if that's going to be something that we see. I almost feel like it needs to be, because that's a major part of how Church was set up to be transferred to Blood Gulch, and how everything was really set in place when Blood Gulch Chronicles really first started. And I've had a lot of speculations about that whole thing too, about how he was placed there, how Sheila was under, how Sheila was there, wondering if she was there to kind of like keep tabs on him, how that base was called Outpost Alpha, Outpost Alpha. So I'm wondering if we're going to see, again, and that's part of the aftermath of Alpha's aftermath, seeing what became of him, what became of everyone else after that mission failed, or after they found the husk that remained of Alpha. But yeah, so there's that. I don't think we'll see this really, but I just put it in here anyway. If we'll see any other freelancers, I know like Project Freelancer really is only about like the top 10 that we know by name: Maine, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Connecticut, Tex, Carolina, and maybe a couple of others out there. There's over 50 49, RIP Florida. But there's 49 others, and I don't think we'll really see them. We got small mention of Utah during like an episode by name, but I don't know if we'll ever see any other freelancers beyond the ones that were at the top of the rankings for the director and the project and everything, and the ones where, anyone who didn't get freelancers, anyone's that didn't get AI, I feel like are irrelevant. But I don't know. I feel like it'd be kind of cool to see at least some random freelancer in the picture at some point for whatever purpose or for whatever reason. I think that would just be neat. So those are all the past events that I'd like to see. When it comes to present events within Season 10, what happened since Season 8? At the end of Season 8, at the end of Season 8, Washington faked his death. So basically, Washington is among the Reds and Blues. So that's a good thing. Maine seemingly died. He got locked off the cliff. So I think he's officially dead, which means Carolina and Washington are the only current freelancers of the project that are still alive, I believe. So there's that. I just want to know what happened at the end of Season 8 to the beginning of Season 10. What happened to the Reds and Blues afterwards? How's Washington doing? When did Carolina come into the picture? Who contacted who first? And what led them from going back home at the end of Season 8 to being in this UNSC facility getting Epsilon out of the capture unit? That's like the major thing that I'm hoping that we get. I'd love to know how Carolina and Washington's reunion were, if they ended up seeing each other, because the only people that we saw in the at the end of Season 9 was Caboose, Sarge, and I think we heard Griff like outside of the room, and then obviously Carolina. So like there's still like the rest, like Donut, I think he's still knocked. Well, he's actually awake in Valhalla. So eventually I think we'll go back to Valhalla. Like I just want to know what the aftermath was and what has happened leading up to this point, just so we can get some context there. So I wrote this down really quick, and this is mainly because of what we've seen so far of Texas. Right, so we know that Texas originally, Allison died in the war, and then the Tex that we've known from Project Freelancer all the way up to where she died in Blood Gulch Chronicles was the beta, right? So it was the beta AI, and the Tex that we've gotten from Season 8, I believe, to now has been Epsilon Tex. And we all know that the current AI are all gone. They were all destroyed in the EMP during Season 6. But I'm wondering now, with Carolina being in the picture, primarily because of Carolina, and obviously Epsilon is already of himself an AI, are we going to get Epsilon versions of other AI now? Right? Because the first thing that I'd like to see is, like, we saw what York was like with Delta in present day, like, well, as close as present day as possible, right? In the Out of Mind miniseries, we've seen Reginald with Gamma at the end of season, towards the end of the Blood Gulch Chronicles. So we saw him and his freelancer back together. We saw York and Delta together. We saw Tex and Omega together. So because the original 2 AI that Carolina got are gone, would that prompt Epsilon to ever make an Epsilon version of those 2 AI for her to either interact with again or to get back again, right? Would Epsilon ever go back to Washington? Would the purpose of making, like, would there be any purpose in the present for Epsilon to create Epsilon Omega, Epsilon Theta, Epsilon Sigma, Epsilon the other 2, and all of the other ones that we have, basically Epsilon memory based versions, in the same way that he made Tex? That's the only other thing I can think of, because he did it for Tex, so why wouldn't he do it in any other situation? Like I said, Carolina had 2 AI. The only way we'd get information about them is if we get it in season 10 in the past. And if we don't, the only other way we'll learn more about them is if they're Epsilon versions of themselves through Epsilon's memories. So that's the only other thing that I'm thinking. I wrote here, I was like, Epsilon versions of other AI, and then I put Carolina in parentheses because she's relevant, she's current. I wonder if she would have anything to say if her AI just kind of came back into the picture, since the originals were destroyed. Also, I recently rewatched the Out of Mind miniseries just because I've been watching a lot of freelancer focused stuff as I was getting caught up for season 10, just because Project Freelancer is all about the freelancers and the AI. And this clip here from the Out of Mind miniseries mentioned something regarding Wyoming and Gamma. Check it out.
What do you think, D?
Agent Texas poses a serious risk to any mission. The spontaneous ejection of AI can be catastrophic to the psyche of an agent.
She seems okay to me.
May I remind you what happened when Program Gamma removed itself from Agent Wyoming?
That won't be necessary, D.
So it seems that something happened to Wyoming when Gamma ejected from him. I don't know if it was something psychologically. I don't know if it's the reason why he has an accent when he talks, or the reason why he talks now versus why he didn't talk. He hasn't talked at all during season 9. But, like, it seems like something severe happened to Wyoming after Gamma kind of went AWOL. And I don't know if their separation was mutual, or if it was the AI just trying to get out of the picture so that way he wouldn't be, like, taken into custody by the UNSC. But it seems like something happened, and I just want to know if it happened in the past. I want to know what it was. Basically, something happened to Wyoming when Gamma ejected from him, and I just find that fascinating to learn a little bit more about that, because, yeah, when we see Gamma or Gary in Blood Gulch Chronicles, he's kind of off doing his own thing by himself, and I didn't even put it together until they mentioned how Gamma or Reggie had bad knock-knock jokes, and Gary was all about telling knock-knock jokes. So I kind of put 2 and 2 together way back then. So that's another thing too, if we can get instances of that particular moment, because it's the same thing for how York lost his eye, or, anything like that. Like, they reference it in the past, and then it becomes relevant once we're in the Project Freelancer saga. So I'd like to see that. Also, the last kind of thing that I'd like for, like, a full circle, just kind of going, like, basically having their tales told, like, going around full circle, is Washington and Carolina's full transformation. And what I mean by that is, we've seen Washington since, I think, seasons 5, season 6 maybe, of Red, I think it was season 6, of Red versus Blue. And when we see Washington, he's very much, like, annoyed with everything and anything, right? Getting shot in the back by South, being used and abused by the director, being taken advantage of and thrown in jail, left for dead. Basically, this man's been through the ringer more times than one, and it wasn't always like that. With season 9, he was very quick to defend the director at in front of, for CT, who was kind of talking very bad about, not bad about him, but basically she was very scorned by a lot of things and she was questioning a lot. And he was like, the director's helping us. We owe him everything. We got to follow the rules. We got to stick together. We're a team. And now it's very clear that he had a high admiration for the director. Things didn't work out. And now he's the person he is. But we still need a bit more. We need that moment that clicks with him where he's just like, fuck this shit. Fuck this whole project, fuck the director, etc., etc., etc. And I think for Carolina, it's very much the same because she's in the same boat now. Where at the end of season 9, she says, or at the end of like the past sequence, she says, "You've given me everything. I would do anything for you." And then the next time we see her in the present, she's like, "Epsilon, you're gonna help me do what should have been done a long time ago. You're gonna help me kill the director." So though that juxtaposition for both of these characters is something that I find really fascinating, and the fact that they're the only two alive and seem to be the ones that were affected most by the director is something that I really hope comes to fruition in season 10, both in the past and the present, to kind of give us that full picture. And then the last two things that I put here, and I put them in bold at the bottom: present day Leonard Church and present day UNSC chairman. We've seen the director, we've seen Leonard Church in the past. We haven't seen his full face for some reason. But like, we've seen the director, we've heard him, we've seen him we've seen him in the past for the cutscenes or for the moments that we've gotten of Project Freelancer. In the UNSC chairman, I don't know if we'll ever see him, like physically see him. We've only really heard from him in the form of the memos that were sent back and forth between him and the director during, season 6 and 7 and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm just wondering what the director's been up to since the project has been disbanded. Where has he been? If he's in hiding, what's been going on with him? And basically, I just want to see them in present day. Like, we're getting a lot of the director in the past, and that's great. And I just want to see him now in the present. If we're going to see the UNSC chairman in the present, if he has anything to comment or add on for everything that's happened with the meta and all of the aftermath following, Maine's defeat and Washington's fake death and all that kind of stuff. Because the UNSC are the ones that kind of moved in and took over and retrieved the CAPS unit and everything like that. So they're probably fighting the Reds and Blues leading up into when they got into the base to get the CAPS unit, to get Epsilon out and everything. But yeah, those are all of my thoughts, my theories, my speculations, my predictions, and just kind of wrap up of the last batch of reactions that I did for RVB with season 9, 18, 19, and 20. My thoughts of the season overall, like I said, half good, half bad. Where it was good, it was the best that it's been so far. Where it was bad, it was really just filler more than anything. It wasn't anything that we can take away or think on or ponder in the future. Unfortunately, it's just because they're trying to tell this compelling story, but they really can't give only Project Freelancer backstory stuff to us, which is understandable, especially during that time. But yeah, that is everything. That's kind of where all of my thoughts and opinions lie. In the next video, you guys will be seeing my full-on first batch of reactions for Red vs. Blue Season 10. I'm very, very excited. I think my Season 10 reactions, I think there's a total of, 6 or 7 batches. Georgia gave me the listings a long time ago, so I don't really know how many beats there are, but as usual, you'll get the 6 to 7 batch reactions week in and week out, and then following my reactions, I'm going to do a reaction to the soundtrack, and then there'll be a final overall Season 10 Season 10 review similar to this one, for just my general thoughts of the season overall. But yeah, that is everything. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it's been a long time coming. This video's probably over an hour long at this point based on how much I like rambling and maybe hearing myself talk about how much I love this series. But again, thank you guys so very much. I hope you enjoy. Leave all of your thoughts you guys have in the comments, and I will see you next week for Red vs. Blue Season 10. Take care.